They say we should have known better than to fall so deep down into this rabbit hole we found. And I was thinking.
Hi, this is Nikolai, and you're listening to My Dad Rafal, co-host James Jardian, and featuring Mr. Jim Tiller on the one and only Down the Security Rabbit Hole podcast. Plug in, listen up, and enjoy.
Deep into this pool of regrettable situations. Pitch black, think back to the last time that we were
Good morning to you all. Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome down the security rabbit hole to the industry's longest running cybersecurity podcast, the Down the Security Rabbit Hole podcast. Now in its old season. We've been around for a bit. Today, on a gloomy, dreary January day, we record with my good buddy, Mr. Matt Shufeldt. Matt, how are you?
Doing great, Raph. How you been?
I'm wonderful, wonderful. Jim, welcome back.
Hey, good morning. I'm really excited about this conversation. We were talking earlier about, we were talking immediately just about age. So that explains why we're into like 600 and who knows how many episodes now, 15, almost 18 years of running. But this is going to be a really good conversation. I'm really curious to see how this goes.
So total sidebar, but there's a song called Replay by some pop star from a million years ago. And there's a lyric that says, like, my iPod stuck on replay. And my son, it was playing in the car because my daughter's got a pop station on iTunes. And my son goes, "Dad, what's that?" And I went, quietly wept into my sleeve. Oh,
That's
yeah.
funny.
They don't know what an iPod is. I don't know.
Or the sense of a Discman skipping or having to use a pencil for your cassette tape.
Cassette tape, that's right. Or remember trying to figure out which track it was on the 8-track. That is some age. All right.
Then we can get started. I'm just kidding.
My kids have if you're listening to this and you have young kids, they probably have this joke they'll tell you, or they have already. Apparently it's been going around the school and all the kids tell it, but it's like, you guys had no, we have something you never had, Dad. That's cell phones, but you had something that we didn't have. And I say, yeah, what's that? He goes, dinosaurs.
Ooh, nice.
Oh, that's funny.
I was like, all right, you're walking home. The grocery store's not that far. All right. Welcome back. Matt, you're a repeat offender. And you posted a interesting topic. Or no, we went back and forth about an interesting topic on specialization. And in cyber, I feel like we all started out as generalists and we all became like super specialists, where we're good at like 1/100,000th of a thing, of the whole thing, but we're really, really, really good at it. It's made job hunting kind of interesting. Give me your take on the topic, and we'll go ahead and just kick it off from there.
Yeah, no, happy to. So, I think about this topic quite a bit, and I did start out as a generalist, and guess what? I am still a super generalist. I never picked a single specialty. I've worked across most areas of IT, most areas of cyber, and most areas of leadership. And frankly, I wouldn't have it any other way. I feel like it makes things a lot more interesting, but also I feel like it makes me more versatile, and I can handle situations that when they come up that, I haven't seen before, but I've seen a lot of things that look like them. And I think it overall just makes us stronger. We had a concept when I was at Sports Authority, hire athletes, not skill position players. You want people that are really versatile. They can go across multiple different things. They can cover off on multiple things. And my view in cyber actually is I think specialization, and this is past when we all started. So we probably, none of us personally experienced this, but specialization became a huge thing. I'm not making fun of you, Raph. Trust me. It's okay. No, but specialization became a really big thing. You guys probably remember in the early 2000s. Like it was like, okay, well, I'm going to be a DFIR person. I'm going to be a specialist on systems. I'm going to be a specialist on network. And I actually think it made us a little bit worse in some ways, because some of those specializations didn't stay fresh. Like they got really into how they were doing it right then, and they kind of stayed in that time capsule. And this isn't everybody, obviously, but they stayed in that time capsule, and so their experience started to get dated. And it's personally impacted a lot of them. I talk to a lot of folks when they're job hunting because they can't find that recreation of the thing they do. And it's a real big problem for them. And then for companies, it's a problem because the people you need next week, and obviously next week just being a visualization, are different than the people you need today. And if those people aren't adaptable, they have to change. So I think that's my view.
I'm going to say that part of that is something that was created by companies, by the jobs that we did, because I remember working in the enterprise, and one of the things that we had challenges with was we needed what was it at the time, a nitro sim specialist, and I needed that person that did that job that knew those buttons. And so you kind of went that's what you worked in, right? You got into that, and we were hiring DFIR specialists for Windows. You're like, okay. Or we were hiring FTK specialists, or we needed somebody that knew checkpoint firewalls really well. Not somebody who knew firewalls, not somebody who knew network security, but checkpoint firewalls, that also knew like very deep on Splat, secure platform. Sorry, checkpoint. They did that to themselves. But that were kind of deep. And I guess once you kind of are on, it's my opinion that once you were on that slope, there was no really pulling out of it. You were like in for a penny, in for a pound. Like you were in, right? It was really hard to go. I spent the last 4.5 years at my last employer working on doing investigations on Windows using FTK, but I could be a firewall guy. And people were like, can you though? And it turns out you probably could. It's just your tunnel vision happened. Agree? Disagree?
Yeah, I agree. And Jim, I don't want to hog the mic. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I was going to say is I may be sitting here looking all calm, but my head's about to explode. I can't begin to agree more, which is kind of going to make for a bad show, right? Because we're all like shaking hands. Because that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, we all agree. It's over. The thing that I will say is, like, I have on my other screen here looking at Paul Jeremy's, heat map of certification, which is almost 500 now, right? And so you have this sort of chicken, egg, fox, chicken, chicken, fox, hen house thing. Whereas, we all started as generalists in the very beginning. I think everybody does in some way. And then you sort of veer into a lane that is nice for you. Then all of a sudden, like, the certification economy kicks off and like, oh, you can get a certification in that, right? And then companies are trying to hire people. They go, well, I need these 15 things, and I'm going to hire one person to get all those 15 things. And then now all of a sudden you see a swelling of security teams because they have those hyper specializations. And Matt, you really nailed it when you said where you enter may not be where you come out with what your specialization is. So it's creating a massive amount of confusion for people who are in or want to get into security, people who want to be hired for doing their security skills. But I think I'll just leave with this: is you use the analogy of a higher athlete, right? So somebody, a person who can do great things physically and move around, and you put a sucker at their feet, soccer ball, or put a hockey puck in front of them, or put a football or whatever, and then they'll be able to kind of mold in that direction and execute those capabilities. And I used to say, kind of my version of that was, you learn skills and apply them over time and learn your lessons, and that gives you a bit of knowledge. And then after applying knowledge in diverse areas, that gets you that little wisdom, if you will. And that's really kind of what you're saying, Matt, is like, if you have a little bit of everything, you're able to dip in really quick and build those strengths rapidly and exercise those muscles for the time that you need them. But I feel really, I won't say bad, but I feel kind of bad for people who are early in their career, because there's just so many options. Like, how do they become really effective and build a full and rich career when somebody's always changing the steps in front of them? I mean, do you feel the same way, Matt? Do you feel like that it's hard for people that are currently in that arc of activity?
So I saw Raf's finger go up, so I'll answer this quickly and throw it over to him.
Go ahead. I'm thinking of something here.
It's all good. Yeah, I do think it's hard. I do think that there are more resources available for them, though. When I talk to people about getting into security, the first question I ask is, why do you want to get into security? And the answer is normally money, right? And because, frankly, the entry-level positions pay better than any other entry-level position, it's because they're not really entry-level positions. It's all a kind of a card game, right? Like a shell game. So it's one of those things that I always like break down with them. I'm like, okay, so if you want to get into security today, there are very quick paths to like get people's attention, but you won't get a job. Like you need to probably go after technology, figure out a technology that interests you, or go after process, figure out process that interests you, and get a job in that, become part of the community, whether it's OWASP or ISSA or, probably not ISACA, but like one of those that, well, actually, that's not a dig on ISACA. It's just, that's not how you get into security. That's how you become an auditor. So it's one of those things where you really need to learn a craft that makes you valuable enough for somebody to want to give you a shot. Because as a CISO, I used to always hire true entry level people, but that's not common. It's very uncommon because you have to train them up. And I did it for very selfish reasons, not selfless reasons, which is, okay, I can only pay X amount, which means I need to get these people on the way up and I need to turn them into really great security people or technologists or process people. And I'm going to get them for like 6-7 years that way, which is great. And then they can move on to something really good in their career. And that's satisfying too. But I feel like most security leaders don't do that. They're like, I have to have all of these things exact. And there's HR folks in between that are going to like screen out candidates. Like I just had a conversation with a great CISO person that I'd known a long time just this past week. And I just said, hey, I had this colleague apply for this job. They got instantly rejected. And by the way, this is actually their skill sets. So I don't know how they wrote their resume and I don't know if it was bad, and I'm not trying to break your process, but you're going to miss out on somebody that's good. You should talk to them. And of course, this person is great character. They're like, yep, I'll take care of it. But imagine if there's not somebody on the background. I don't want to change the topic, but imagine if there's not somebody in the background, like reaching out to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. It does make it hard, but I would say get into technology first or process first. And then you're going to become a generalist, but you're going to become really valuable because you're going to know you're going to know a lot of different programming languages and scripting languages, or you're going to know a lot of different technologies. Either way, you're going to be more marketable for yourself and more useful for whatever organization you end up in.
So originally, as Jim was talking, my head went straight to companies don't make being a generalist easy, right? At the hiring side. And then Matt, as you started chatting, I immediately thought about the kind of talent so how do we get entry level talent these current last couple 5, 7, 10 years? And that is somebody takes, a certification or a course, Jim, and suddenly you are you're very narrow, right? And, or you come out of college with a degree in security, some kind of security. So I think you get dropped into a rail real fast, right? You get a track and you get stuck on that. I think 25 plus years ago now, when we got 30 years ago. Okay, let's not have that discussion. A long time ago when we were getting started, there was no specialists because everything was new and security was just, you did everything. Right?
There weren't even security jobs outside.
That's right. That's right. At first there wasn't. Like my first security job it was a systems engineering job. Yeah. That I was like, hey, nobody's doing this thing here, like patching systems, because I was like, I'll do it. That sounds cool. Turns out that was a bad idea.
Yeah, I was going to say, whoopsies.
That sounded fun until like 4 a.m. when I'm like, why won't this come back? But so to kind of let me bring those two thoughts together, something cohesive here. The way companies hire makes it difficult to be a generalist, but they really, really need generalists. And the education tracks that are out there, don't churn out generalists, but we really, really need generalists. And Matt, to your point, not generalists like I know a little bit about everything, but generalists is in I've tried everything. I know the mechanics of the different roles. And this is why I tell people that ask me how do I get into security? I said, do everything else first, right? Go be a router jockey, like go mess up a switch, try your hand at software development, go build systems and servers, go play in the clouds, like do all those things. So then you know how all of it works together and if at some point during that like experience, you go, hey, that's supposed to do that. But if I do that, like that, all of a sudden you're like, now you're in security. Like now we just transition you and you're a security person, but you don't have to change jobs. I feel like we've failed somehow, either by I think probably largely by accident. And this is one of those situations where we don't know where this is going to lead. So we just let it go and it leads to someplace awful. And here we are. But this whole conversation about generalists versus specialists is valid because we're at a point right now where we have a lot of people out of work and they are specialists in a specific thing.
Yep.
And they were indispensable at their last job. They either needed a change for whatever reason, downsized, furloughed, moved, whatever. And suddenly they're like, well, wait, they're looking around and going, nobody, there's not enough people needing exactly the very small sliver of the thing that I did. And it's not to say they're not wonderful at 100 other things, but now their resume and their skill set is so tailored. All right, I'll shut up now because that's where my head went.
Yeah. No, I think, to your point, Jim, like not a very interesting podcast when we're all super agreeing, but I will say if we switch it to like, how do we solve for it?
Yeah.
I think that could produce some interesting momentum. So I'm going to start with a problem statement and probably something that's fairly unpopular in today's social media influencer CISO type of world. And don't get me wrong, there are some really great CISOs that are on social media, but most are not actual CISOs. They're not.
You said influencer. You lost me there.
Yeah, we did a whole show on it. Remember, guys? So in any event, one of the problems is our security leaders are not thinking long term. They're thinking, 2-3 years out, maybe, but they're not really thinking about like 6-10 years out.
No, not in a million years.
And that's not true in just security. That's true like in a lot of different roles. But because of that, people aren't actually planning to build. They're just trying to recreate things they've done previously that were successful for them with small adaptations. And they really need to understand today's world for their organization, and they need to build thinking about what they're going to need in the future as well as what they need today. And that will actually allow them to have a growth path beyond just like, oh, I'm going to actually create a path of learning for an associate because I'm told I'm supposed to do that. No, you should be doing that not only to develop them, but to have the skill sets and the capabilities that you need long term. And if I think leaders can start doing that again, and I'm not saying that's easy, but it's a mindset. Like we have to flip the mindset to where they're actually thinking about, how do I stay with an organization a long time? Like I've had a really good tenure at most organizations I've been at because I love to build and I love to evolve. And I wish we could find more leaders who have that mindset, because I think that's how we get back to generalists, because you're going to invest in people long term and let them try things.
All right. So Matt, I wanted to say that I 100% agree that I think, so I'm going to contradict you, but I want you to know I'm coming from a position of love.
For sure. All good.
The problem is, I think the problem is the economy, like the cybersecurity profession economy, right? The whole tapestry of what we're talking about. What is the CISO's average lifespan in the company is 18 to 22 months or something. I saw something recently about that. Also, you have scenarios where we've created a job economy where job hopping is actually seen as almost a value. Oh, you've worked at these 27 places in the last 17 seconds, right? And it's also been shown as it's very difficult to get a raise. I can tell you, even at a time when, Raph and I worked a couple companies together, and I won't say their names, but it was easier to say, hey, look, man, I can hire you back in 3 months at what you want. It's a lot easier than giving you a raise.
I'm pulling up LinkedIn to figure out what companies they were.
Yeah, exactly. So the net of it is that I wish we go in that direction and cultivate a more enriched environment in a industry that supports that development 1,000%. But nothing, and I mean nothing supports that. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, what am I missing? Do you guys see something I'm missing? Like, what's
part of that? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Raf.
No, that's the same thing I was going to raise. Is in theory, Matt, that's awesome, but nothing about the way we're set up. All your long-term strategies in the CISO world that I've been a part of are like maybe 3 years out. You try to go 5 years, people laugh at you because technology. The idea is technology changes so quickly. If you look beyond 3 years, I mean, you look at 3 years, you're pretty impressive. At 5, but that's the thing is we're thinking short term because we're just trying to tread water.
So I say this with love as well. Back to our draft. So you're thinking of it the wrong way in my mind.
Okay.
Because it's not a roadmap. It's not like I'm going to define a 5-year roadmap. That's lunacy nowadays, right? Because there's no way anybody would let you build a roadmap for 5 years. And frankly, it wouldn't be that useful.
Yeah.
So, but you can have, it's like good architecture. So design principles, right? So I know that I need these types of technologists, these types of process people, these types of overall capabilities in my organization. Right now, it looks like this. And I can see into next year, and I'm confident I know what next year looks like. I'm going to plan for that. But I'm going to adhere to these principles as I'm continuing to plan in more of and Agile gets way overused. Agile's not sloppy iterative stuff. It's supposed to be inspection and adaptation consistently. And so you have those design principles for your program and how you're supporting your organization. You have a plan that goes like a year and a half, maybe 2 years out, and you adapt as you go. And I'm not saying any of this is easy. None of this is easy. Otherwise, people would just be doing it. But Raf, you've known me since probably my early 30s. So a bit.
So yeah, right around Sports Authority time, which by the way, you might have to explain to some of our listeners what that was.
Oh yeah. So I was at this little company called Sports Authority for about 13 years. And believe it or not, when I got there, I was actually already over a decade into my career because I started as a teenager in computer operations on a mid-range system. So I was very far into my career already, super generalist once again. And when I went there to become the change control administrator, which, by the way, was a $25,000 dip in pay. And basically I had to build it. But I did it because I asked when I was called, they said, oh, so you've done change control. I'm like, yeah, I've done change control a lot in my career, but what are you looking for? They're like, and I'll try to make this fast, but we're looking for a change control administrator. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. Do you have any security people? And they said, no. And I said, okay, I'll come interview with you. If you hire me today and I get to do security and change control. And basically went there, I interviewed 3 people, including the CIO, got the job, and I started building. And so I built out all the ITSM functions. I built out security, infrastructure ops, QA over the course of 13 years and was reporting to the CEO by the end. So it's one of those things where when you take and you actually have a builder's mindset and you're not short-sighted as far as compensation or short-sighted on what your upside is, because that's the problem is everybody is very fixated on the immediate. And what I was going to say back with the love part before you asked me to explain my Sports Authority journey is it really comes down to this. I was having a conversation with a really, really good friend of mine, somebody I admire a great deal here in the industry, Rob Reck. And he and I were chatting back and forth. And we were talking about the security leaders that we knew when we were up and comers, because we were up and comers around the same time. We were both directors of security around the same time. A lot of them are still directors, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you're happy, that's fantastic. But most did not continue to evolve their careers. And part of the reason is exactly what you're saying, Raf, and you were touching on, Jim, as well, which is they're like, well, that job is not there for me. That raise is not there for me. So I need to move so I can get those things.
Mm.
You know, the last 4 jobs I've had, I wrote the job description and handed it to the person that was hiring me and or promoting me. And
Okay.
I think if you're like 15 years into your career and you can't do that, you know, tap into people that know how to do that, because that's how you continue to move and evolve. And none of this is easy. It's all really hard. But I don't want to get too far off topic on the generalist part. But that's my comeback for that.
You mentioned super generalist because there's generalists. Like I said, we know a little bit about a whole lot. There's specialists. We know a whole lot about a little. You mentioned something that sounds kind of in between. You want to explain that?
Super generalist? Yeah. So super generalist, the reason I started using that term is because I got into an argument like 16, 17 years ago at an OWASP meeting with some leaders. And for those of you that have been to Denver OWASP, and Raph, I think you have, it's a little like violent dinner theater. It's very lively. It's a big group. I was on their board for like 10 years, and it is probably one of the most high energy places that you can see. And so I get in this argument about generalist versus specialist. And the person kept saying like generalist means that they're not deep on anything. It's like the old, pardon me for being a geek for a second. It's like the old like BARD definition in the old D&D world, right? Like, master of none, right? And so it's like, that's not what it is. And so I started calling it super generalist just so I didn't have to have the argument every time. So I'd say super generalist, not generalist. And then they would ask me what I meant by super generalist. So I got to explain it instead of defending my point on why generalists are really good. And so it was more of like my social engineer way of like not wanting to have to like have that argument every single time it came up.
Fair. Okay. Hey, Jim, do you see any, is you've got where you're at now has a very unique perspective, I think, given what we've talked about, right? Role wise. Do you see a lot of opportunity for generalists in the field? Or Matt, either of you guys? Because I have to say, I still don't. We desperately need them, but this is one of those things where there was an old cartoon where stubborn as a mule, right? And there's mules in quicksand, and somebody's passing by and saying, "Hey, you're sinking," and it's up to its ankle. It's like, "No, I'm not." And it's like, "Hey, you're sinking." It's up to his knees. "No, I'm not." Like, "Hey, you're sinking." It's up to its like middle of its back. "No, I'm not." And by the time the last one is like, "Hey, you're sinking," it's up to its ears. It's like, "No, I'm not." And then like as its nose goes under, it goes, "Oh crap, I'm sinking." Right? Like I think we're halfway up the back of the mule at the moment. And we're like, "Nah, we're fine. We're fine." I think we're headed for a place with the right or the exactly wrong confluence of the way we the staffing we create and cultivate and the kinds of jobs we post and hire for. And it is headed right into an iceberg, and we are whistling all the way into that.
Oh, we're full steam ahead. I mean, yes, we're moving quick into an iceberg field. And yes, it is I would almost say we're at the neck ear level now. Our heads tilted back to get some air. I do believe very deeply about what I'm about to say. And we don't have enough time to really get into it. But I think what's broken is the whole, if I may, I'm going to upset a lot of people when I say this. The recruiting system has created this sort of element, and it's contributed to a lot of these sort of, it's not the only reason, but Matt, you said it perfectly. You saw that person's resume got clipped off immediately, and it took a phone call, right? So that actually tells you more about the process by which we're writing our job descriptions and how people are trying to respond to that by writing CVs that'll get attention. And the thing is if you come after it like a specialist, you're going to get hammered because you're not broad enough. And you come at it broad, it suffers from what you just discussed, Matt, is that you're general, so therefore you're not good at any one thing. So we've created an environment where we're not connecting the right people with the right opportunities because we're trying to automate it all and AI it to death. So I just got to get that off my chest. But I will say this is I'm seeing more and more people in certain circles talking more about, I want a super generalist in technology. I want a super generalist in risk and compliance. People who can kind of talk the full spectrum of understanding how the business is moving and shaking and enough technology to be effective in conversation. And then on this side is you have people who understand a lot of the moving parts about cloud. They understand a lot of moving parts about infrastructure and technology to the point where those two are actually making sense. But it takes us, in my opinion, it takes sort of a forward-thinking person to say, I'm still having to develop, and it's especially true. Like, so again, to your point, Matt, about people developing and creating that arc of what that strategy is. But I think it's also I think there's so much dynamicism, is that a word, in the technology space right now. It is now that you have to be kind of a generalist because somebody's going to drop something new in your bucket. Oh, I'm a X expert. Well, guess what? X just became, ABC overnight kind of thing.
So the iceberg's coming, but I have a glimmer of hope for us to think about.
Oh my.
Global warming? Just kidding.
Oh, that was bad.
I told you were dark a long time ago, Raph. You really should get some help. I'm just saying. Anyway,
that's awesome. Totally awesome.
No, so there's actually a place where organizations have already been given permission that it's okay to be a generalist, a super generalist, right? And that is, these terms get used wrong all the time, so forgive me, but that is the classic DevOps and SRE world. So those folks have to know networking, they have to know systems, they have to know virtualization, they have to know scripting, they have to know some programming to be good. And those are a roadmap for us, like an example, a template, if you will, for how we could have that in other areas. And I think if we just take that mindset, because, society, and pardon me for saying it that way, but society has already been given permission that that's okay. That is an acceptable place to be a super generalist. Like, you have to be one. And so if we just use that as a mindset for how we build all of our teams, and not like try to take the GRC person and make them your coder or anything crazy like that. Like, there's mindset and there's like discipline to different things. Yeah. And frankly, I know that those of us that come from more of a technology background and learn process later, a lot of us will, discount like really good risk management people. We'll put them all in the same boat as like classic GRC people. They're not the same thing. Like, really good integrated risk management people are very dynamic business professionals with really good ability to not only qualitatively assess risk, a lot of times they can get into quantitative understanding of what's going on, and they can affect entire business path because of what they understand. That is the super generalist of the risk world, because they have to know all of these different disciplines to be good. And so take a category and then across all of those different areas in the category, make sure that you understand all those pieces and parts. That's my view.
That's a good, that makes sense. And we're up on time anyway, but I like, that's a good place to put it. Good place to end it. I think that's interesting, Matt. I think that's the new places that we have the ability to kind of innovate, right? At the SRE, site reliability engineering, DevOps, those are places where we have some fungibility and things aren't so rigid. That's a good play. I think also in smaller companies where you just have to have multiple hats on all the time, yep. Right? Interesting. All right. Good chat. This has been fun. I like it. Folks, if you're listening and sometimes like I do, yell at your dashboard or your phone and like, I have something to add to this. There's a way to do that right within the app, which is super interesting. It sends us, you can use it. It's basically SMS to my podcast mailbox. Try it out. It's kind of fun. But yeah, Matt, I think maybe we revisit this at some point because I want to see if this happens. Because you're right, we are, like it or not, we're full steam ahead, Jim. Right at that iceberg. We're going to end up with, I think if we're not careful, inside of 5 years, we are by before 2030 hits. Oh my God, 2030! Before 2030 hits us, we're going to be stuck with a lot of specialist jobs that are highly specialized in things we may or may not need anymore. AI may or may not help that along. And that are unable to find work because they're so specialized when they have generalist skills. They've just been pigeonholed. So I think I think that's a potential problem. And I like your solve, man, and or at least approach. So thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's really good seeing you guys again.
Yeah, it's always great seeing you. And we'll leave it at that, folks. Thanks for listening. This has been another episode of the Down to Security Rabbit Hole podcast. Check us out on LinkedIn, YouTube videos. If you like watching these live when we record them semi-randomly on people's schedules, get into that LinkedIn group. I will start posting the links to the live record videos, so you get to see them before anybody else does, and kind of see how we have fun with this. But until next time, we'll catch you guys another time, another place on another Down the Security Rabbit Hole podcast. Ciao, y'all.
This is Bella. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to leave my dad a review and share this with your friends. Bye.